Alright, I'm going to give you the basics about a banjo. The one I have is a 5-string banjo. Look at all of it. Okay, so there's 5 strings to it, like I said. And we'll have to learn how they're numbered, because that's important when you learn how to play. So they're numbered from the biggest number to the smallest number, going down. So the very top string, looking down, is string number 5. And string number 4, string number 3, string number 2, and string number 1. Okay? Now let's go over what note each one is tuned to. Okay? The 5th string is tuned to a G. Okay. Next one is tuned to a D. It's a D note. And then G again. And then the note of B, and then D. So you can tell it kind of repeats itself. So G, D, G, B, D. Okay, so if you look at the banjo down here, you can see there's 4 strings all the way at the end. But there's one string where you can tell where it ends. It's where these little knobs are at. So those are called tuning pegs. So you turn one way to raise the pitch and turn it the opposite way to lower the pitch. And so that 5th string, because it has to be such a high note, it's a lot shorter than the other ones. So, okay. And then the next thing, is the spaces right here in between that little middle bar there. Those are called the fret positions. So, and you start with 1 here and go all the way up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so forth and so on. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, if I told you to play the 1st string at the 2nd fret, what we want to do is we figure out which string is number 1, which is the very bottom string. If you're looking down at the banjo itself, at the strings, it'll be the one on the very bottom, the 1st. Oh, almost dropped it. And then you're going to take your finger and go to the 2nd fret and then press down. Okay, this is what it should sound like. It should sound real clear. When you're first learning, it may sound like that, but then you put just a little more pressure on it, it's going to sound clear. So remember, if it sounds like that, just keep on pressing a little bit harder until you get the note clear. But you don't have to press any harder than that. Okay, so if I said play the 3rd string at the 4th fret, we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. And which string did I say? The 4th? So remember, strings are numbered from the bottom going up towards you. So that's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if we note the 4th string at the 4th fret, it will sound like this. It should sound like this. Okay? Alright, so that's how we note the strings. With your right hand, you have to wear what's called banjo picks. Let's see. Okay? They look something similar to that. Have a little band around it, and then it has a flat, what they call blade, on the very bottom of it. And the way you wear it is you want the very flat part against the bottom of your finger, and you'll put them on your first and second finger. So that's how they look. Okay? And then for your thumb, you're gonna want to get what's called a thumb pick. Pretty self-explanatory, a thumb pick. So you want to make sure whenever you get your picks that they don't feel real loose or they'll fall off. But at the same time, you want to make sure that they fit well enough to where they don't hurt your fingers. Because sometimes you get those too tight and it hurts your fingers to wear them very long. So that's the picks and the strings and the notes. A lot to take in all at once, but good thing about video is you can rewind it and watch it as much as you want to. Okay? So let's go back and go over the parts of the banjo. The very end of this, but first of all, let me do it this way. You can think of a banjo as your body. Okay? At the very top, we have what's called a headstock. Okay? That piece right there is called a headstock. Okay? What comes next on your body? A neck. So from all the way below the headstock, all the way down to the very bottom, that's called the neck of the banjo. And after your neck comes the body of the banjo. And then at the very, very end of the banjo, this little middle piece there, that's called a tail piece. And its job is to hold the strings in place down there. And then this little metal piece here, if your banjo has one, it's called an armrest. And it does just what you say. It's called. You rest your arm on it. Okay? And then most banjos have, there's the back of a banjo. Okay? So, like I said, goes from the headstock down to the neck, down to the body, and then down to the tailpiece. And you have an armrest. So those are very important things to remember. Let me see if I can get my camera a little bit closer for this next part. Okay, so starting off, we're not going to worry about our left hand right now. We're just going to concentrate on hitting the strings one finger at a time. Okay, so I want you to take your thumb and just get used to hitting the string. So you want to, whenever you hit the string, make sure that pick is even on top of the string, and then we want to push down very lightly. You should get a sound like that. And then the next string. Actually, let me start over. So the fifth string, then the fourth string, then the third string, the second string, and finally the first. Okay, so now we'll go with the index finger, or what some people call the pointer finger. Now your goal is to hit the string on the very flat part of your pick. And whenever you hit it, you don't want to have your hand close enough to where that can scrape. You want to lift it up just slightly. And this time we'll go from the bottom up. So we're going to play first through fifth. So we'll do that now. So hit number 1, then number 2, number 3, number 4, and number 5. Okay, and then with your second finger, we'll do the same thing. So we're hitting string number 5, and string 4, and string 3, string 2, and string 1. Okay, so when you play a banjo, you're going to learn what they call rolls. And these are just the order in which you hit the strings. There's different types of rolls. Like there's what they call a forward roll and a backward roll. So for a forward roll, that's all we'll concentrate on right now. Is it's always going to be the thumb is first, the index is second, and the third finger is last. So it's going to go in order. It'll go in order of the strings. So we're only going to play the 5th string with the thumb. Okay. 2nd string, use your index finger. And finally, the very bottom string, or the 1st string, you'll play it with your 2nd finger. Okay. So practice that a few times. Okay. Now let's start it a little bit different. So we're going to do 4 notes this time. So we're going to start on the 3rd string with your thumb, the 2nd string with your index finger, the 1st string with your 2nd finger, and finally we're going to hit the 5th string with your thumb. So you can see why it's called a roll, because you're going downhill and then you're coming back up, kind of like if you're rolling along. So again, the 3rd string you'll hit with your thumb. 1st string you'll play string number 2, and your 2nd finger you'll play string number 1. And finally you're going to play that 5th string, the very top string, with your thumb. Okay. And your goal is to learn how to play those really smooth, one right after the other. Okay, now you may think it gets a little boring doing that, but that's the way you build up what they call muscle memory, so your fingers remember what order to hit the strings in. So again, that roll is the 3rd string with your thumb, the 2nd string with your index finger, and then your 1st string with your middle finger. Okay. Now I don't know if you could tell or not, but I have my pinky right there. And the reason why, I kind of push down there so I can keep my hand still while I'm doing that. Otherwise, your hand would be going like that, and you definitely don't want that. So you can either rest your pinky or both fingers there. So that may take a little getting used to. But one thing you don't want to do, you don't want to lay your hand flat. And that's another piece of the banjo I didn't explain. This is what they call the banjo bridge. And the reason why it's called the banjo bridge, the strings are held up high by that piece, so it acts like a bridge that you walk across. So that's what holds the strings up off the neck, so it'll make a sound. So I want you to do first is just practice that forward roll that we talked about, and do it at least 10 times. And what if you make a mistake? Well, you can just stop and start over. So if you accidentally do, that's not in the right order, is it? So remember, we want to do use your thumb first on the 3rd string. So 1, 2, 3. So we want to use string number 3 with your thumb, string number 2 with your 1st finger, and string number 1 with your 2nd finger. Okay? And like I said, that's what's called a forward roll. So you want to do that over and over and over again until you can do it. So you can do it over and over again without stopping. At first, it's going to be a little bit difficult because you'll want to make sure that you get the right string, but with a little bit of concentration, and play it very slowly. Because sometimes, whenever you first learn, you think you got to play real fast. But you hear what happened? Whenever I try to play real fast like that, I'm not hitting the right strings at all. So we want to do thumb on your 1st string. Excuse me, I told you wrong. So I'm going to start over. I'm going to play the 5th string with my thumb. Then we're going to play the 2nd string with your 1st finger. And finally, your very 1st string with your 2nd finger. Okay, so I think that'll about do it for this video. So be sure and practice exactly what I showed you. First of all, just practice just hitting the string one at a time. First with your thumb, then your index finger, and then finally your 2nd finger. Make sure you can hit all the strings and it sounds very, very clear. And then once you feel comfortable doing that, remember we're going to, each finger has a different string it's going to play. So with your thumb, we're going to play the 3rd string. First finger will play the 2nd string. And your 2nd finger will hit the 1st string at the very bottom. Again. Okay. And then finally, for the very last note, we're going to let our thumb play string number 5 at the top. So again. Okay. So that should get you started. And it's going to take a little while to progress to where you can actually play a song. But if you do everything just right, you'll be surprised that later on you'll be able to play a song, because we can learn one little thing like that, and once we do that, then we can learn how to what they call slide with our other finger, or slide, or even what they call hammer on. So that should get you started. So again, thank you so much for watching, and we'll get another video in very soon. Thanks.